What's going on, guys? We're live. Brand new Poker Live podcast. My name is Joey Ingram1, aka Chicago Joey. I want to let you guys know we're going to be having on Doug Polk, my young brother from another mother, the Supreme Leader. He'll be on the podcast tomorrow afternoon. And this podcast today will be about the exact opposite of a Doug Polk podcast, how it might be. And the subject matter, we're going to be joined today by a young man who I just found out his story very recently. His story was written in the Sacramento Bee by a young author named Mike McGough. And he's also, shout out to him as well, too. He wrote about a man named Kevin Roster, a.k.a. Kevin Rex. I just call him Kevin Rex. I really like the name Kevin Rex. But Kevin was diagnosed with sarcoma cancer. He is terminally ill, and he's decided that he's going to have an assisted suicide after the World Series of Poker is over. But this is going to be his last World Series of Poker that unfortunately he's ever going to play. He's been a long time poker player as well. Used to play a lot of tables online. So, me and him are going to vibe on that situation because, me, I used to love 24 tabling. Not sure if Kevin actually 24 tabled or only 15 tabled. We're going to find out more. But his goal, his mission, this World Series of Poker is to raise awareness for sarcoma cancer, the condition that he has, and help people out there potentially prevent it from something where their family members aren't able to find it. And his goal is to get out there, get his story out there. He really wanted to play the main event. And luckily, Greg Merson, the World Series Poker champ, stepped up to the plate. He said he would put Kevin into the main event, and hopefully ESPN will be able to cover his story as well. Today, we're going to find out more about Kevin, about Kevin's story, about Kevin's poker ability, about his love for poker, and all things what's going on with him in his world. Kevin, welcome to the podcast, brother. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on there, Joe? Glad to be on the podcast and, just living the World Series of Poker life, hanging out. So good morning. And, loving it, loving the community and all the love everybody showed me. It's really been amazing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I read the story the other day and I put up on Twitter. I hope I don't get emotional here. I apologize ahead of time if I get emotional to you in here because I read the story. I've read it a bunch of times, just kind of going through this. It's it really puts things in perspective, bro. In terms of you're sitting there and I think a lot of people take the day for granted and they're fucking complaining about things all the time. And when you think about what life could be like for you, it could be a lot different. Your days could be numbered in this earth. And instead of spending time complaining about shit, maybe you try to maximize the time you actually still have while you're here.
Well, this is a big part of what I try to bring to people with my message is perspective, because I was 34 one day and, my life was normal. I owned a successful business. Everything was, for lack of a better word, just, chilling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get a little lump in my leg. And unfortunately, I received bad medical advice. And 4 months later, I'm diagnosed with cancer and with what's called undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma. So I'm like, whoa, that's a mouthful. What does that even mean? And then the doctor pretty much just shipped me off and didn't really explain. So, I didn't even get a good explanation with my diagnosis.
And then, so yeah, kind of what takes place after that? So after this happens with the doctor, then what's the process like? Because at one point in time, you think that you're free of cancer, right? You think that you're in the clear, and then it comes back, and that's when it becomes more aggressive, and that's when it leads to you having to have your leg amputated in addition to trying other procedures.
Well, I'll give you, as a summarized timeline, what I'll give you is the original surgeon left pieces of the cancer inside of me, which is, it's bad for your prognosis. It's what's known as contaminating the field. So he refers me to a specialist, what's called an orthopedic oncologist, which is an orthopedic surgeon who specializes in cancer. So when they evaluated it, they're like, okay, it's wrapped around your sciatic nerve. So they said, we need to downgrade it. And then they recommended chemotherapy. And I did 9 cycles of chemotherapy. I had to stay in the hospital for 5 days and be infused constantly. Obviously, I lost all my hair, had the side effects, all of that stuff. And then at the same time, I had to do radiation on my leg. Oof. While doing the chemo. That's every day, 5 days a week for 31 treatments. All of this was before I actually got to have the second surgery, which is when you had referred to when they told me that I didn't have cancer anymore. I got basically they gave me a letter declaring me cancer free, and I thought I was in the clear. And the way I found out was I went for a second opinion because they wanted me to do more chemotherapy, and I didn't want to do more chemo unless I had to. So I went to the Fox Chase Cancer Center in Philadelphia, which is a well-known institution with Temple, and they recommended 99% to 1 if I had clear margins that I should just do nothing and what's called surveillance, which means being scanned every 2 months. So I was celebrating. I went to Colorado on vacation. Was having a great time, loving Colorado, and I actually went hiking. And I'm from Flushing, Queens. I'm from the city, so for me,
Hmm.
that's out of character. But I was really enjoying it. Watched a hawk catch a mouse, whatever. Yeah, no, it was sick, man. Anyhow, but so then they call me on the last day of my vacation, and they tell me they need me to come in ASAP, and that they had found readily apparent margins on 3 of my sections. You have 8, and so they means 3 of the 8 sections were still contaminated with 1% cancer cells.
So at that point in
So
time, so then you come back from Colorado and then you go back to the doctor, and then what takes place then?
so they have me rescanned, and they find out now at this point it's back in my leg, and there's two tumors now. They're smaller at this point, about 5 centimeters, and they find unfortunately 11 nodules on my lung. So at this point, I'm now stage 4, and I'm considered incurable. Right at that point,
Wow.
although I do still treat with further chemo. Cancer is cancer's an organism that evolves. So once you use a treatment on it, if it survives the treatment, it becomes immune to it. So I actually went through the 3 more cycles of chemo, and it tripled in size, and my leg started to blow up to where, I mean, it looked like I had a watermelon in my leg. Eventually, I do another 28 days of radiation, which just totally destroys my leg from like an integrity perspective. It's red, and like the tumor keeps growing, and all of a sudden now I start bleeding from the leg in multiple places, and they won't stop. They bleed no matter what you do. You can't get them to clot. The skin is starting to break down, and I went for a consult with a couple of surgeons, and both of them had the same verdict. The leg was going to give way, and the tumors were actually going to, they were going to burst out of my leg, causing what they call fungation and, ulceration of the entire leg. And they said I had to have it off.
Mm-hmm.
The procedure I underwent is actually known as a hind quarter amputation. And that means they took not only my leg, but also my left pelvis, my left hip, my sitting bone, and my left leg. So I'm lacking a left side. They use the muscles from my quadriceps to create, the what would be called a stump, but I don't even have a stump. I'm just basically one leg, and I just end. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if you remember those the punching bags as a kid. You would inflate them and you'd punch them and they'd come back up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like on my left side,
Fucking crazy, bro.
So that's the medical part.
Right.
That's the medical part. And at this point, they told me there was nothing else they could do for me, and they put me on hospice. So I've been on hospice now for about 2 months.
Wow. So, I mean, when this takes place and you have this done, how much time at that point in time when the leg's amputated are you thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do with myself now? And at what point in time do you decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead with the physician-assisted suicide and
Just for terminology, it's known
Mhm.
as medical aid in dying. Physician-assisted suicide, that's the term that people who oppose medical aid in dying use, because
Oh, okay.
suicide implies that I want to die, and
Right.
I want to live more than anything, but the disease is killing me. So in my case, I don't want to suffer, so I'm choosing medical aid in dying over what could be possibly months of being in a, kind of a vegetative state and just,
Right.
rotting away. So the terminology is important there.
So there's two camps to the story, right? Because there's one side that is very against this, correct? And then there's another side who they're for it. So I guess they're at like bitter heads. Is this some sort of big thing that goes on? A big issue?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a big political issue. The Catholic Church released a statement denouncing me. They took the time.
What?
Yeah, they took the
What?
time to denounce me. According to an article I read, some archbishop somewhere, denounced my trip, and the political part is again, it's ugly on both sides. It's like anything else. It's a hot
Right.
button issue. And I'm an advocate for medical aid in dying, so that makes me a target for the opposition, unfortunately. So after that, this is the part that was crazy, was that before my surgery, I had a scan. They told me I had 6 months to live, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
After the surgery, the disease became hyper progressive, and then at that point, they were like, "Now you have to measure your life in weeks." And there's like a slight possibility that basically, if it touches the heart, I'll just die at any given time. And right now, after the last scan, it's pressing up against the what's known as the mediastinum. I don't know if I have the pronunciation correct. I think I do, but it's the chamber that contains your lungs and your heart. So my tumor is getting ready to burst through the pleura, which will either result in me dying from collapsed lung,
Mm-hmm.
or from again, an instant heart attack if it gets into my heart.
So this could happen any day now, you're saying?
I mean, their estimates are that they would be surprised if it happened in less than 2 months, but they said I'd be a medical miracle if they were still talking to me in 6 months. And these are my new doctors in California who were able to evaluate everything, including my recovery and etc.
Mm. So at what point in
So
time
it's
during
rough,
this,
man.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is obviously a very, very rough. I've never met anyone that's in this situation, and I have absolutely no idea. But it seems to me that you're handling this quite fucking well, buddy, because I think that the courage that you're showing to even want to put yourself out there, and I'm sure pain that you deal with, and the mental pain and the mental ideas that you have go through your mind on a consistent basis, and still out here trying to draw awareness and at least help other people out, and potentially maybe they're dealing with something like this, and maybe you can help prevent this for one person out there. That's a life-changing potential thing that you might be able to do for somebody else out there. So you know what I'm saying? I think from where I stand from, man, it's I don't know how I would be, and I think a lot of other people out there wouldn't be able to handle this with the same kind of positivity that you seem to have on you on a consistent basis from when I've seen you or when I've talked with you.
I mean, look, it's been 2 years. I'm not going to say there's not times where I'm in a dark place for a while after the stage 4 diagnosis. I was in a pretty dark place, and I was less positive. The awareness campaign really was to give me a purpose, and honestly, I want to screw sarcoma. I want to fuck sarcoma so that it, you know what I mean? By
Mm-hmm.
getting the word out. I know it sounds stupid, but I can fuck the disease so that it can claim less people. And that's like you said, if I save one person with all of this, then it was worthwhile, because this is a disease where early detection makes all of the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They have a nonogram, and like when I first started, I had a 92% chance of survival for 5 years. After the surgeon, performs the incorrect procedure, I'm in the 30s. And as poker players, we all know the difference between a 92% favorite and a 30% underdog. So, I mean, again, and I don't harbor anger. I'm not mad at this point. I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? Anger isn't productive. What's productive for me is, again, raising awareness, and ultimately it gives me a purpose. It gives me a purpose now that I can't fight the disease physically anymore. At least I could be on the front lines fighting it from a knowledge and awareness standpoint.
Right. So what made you decide to want to spend your last days here at the World Series of Poker?
I love poker, man. I
Hmm.
was look, back in '04 during, quote unquote the moneymaker effect. I was either a dealer or a promoter in underground games all over New York at the time. I mean, my client list topped over, 5,000 to 800 people. Even, 10 years I spent from running games from like '03, we'll say, to 2013.
Hmm.
I either dealt or, was involved in running poker games for a living. So I eat, sleep, and drink poker. And I, at some point when I got married, like I gave it all up. Like I gave up the poker clubs and poker life, and I made it more of a hobby that I participated in sometimes. Now, if I'd gone the other way, I believe this would have been my life. So I wanted to live. I wanted to live the other life on the way out. That way, I could say, I did it, and I took my shot, and Vegas didn't eat me alive.
Hmm.
So, it's been a lot of fun. That's the one thing I'll tell you. My live play up until this point has been really limited. Probably played less than 40 live tournaments in my life before the series. Although I've been here twice before, I just came for the weekend. So, that's really what made me decide that. Plus, I love the people who play poker, and I figured it's a great place to spread knowledge because we're sitting all day and we're sitting
Hmm.
around, and if we have a pain or an ache, we have a lump. I don't think there's any group that's probably more likely to blow that off to go play in the next game than poker players. So I figured it was a good yeah, they don't want
It's
nobody
true.
wants to leave the tables.
Yeah.
So I figured it was a good group to work with.
So you said that if you wanted to play the World Series Poker main event because if you were able to play the World Series Poker main event, that way ESPN would pick up the story, and then if your story was able to get out there on ESPN,
Then
that
I would
would
have maxed awareness. Yeah.
right.
Now ESPN, actually, I had dinner with them at the Voodoo Steakhouse yesterday, and we're in agreement. I'm going to be doing an E60 for ESPN. I'll be doing a
Wow.
segment, and they're also saying that I should get a live spot on Sports Center during the main event because
Wow.
July is Sarcoma Awareness Month.
Wow. I mean, that'll be awesome for your mission here, brother.
Well,
That'll
after
be
that,
really
I'll
good.
be honest with you, I'm probably done just because unless they need me, and they said really they don't need me to speak to lawmakers because I'm a resident of California. It's legal in California, and you can only tell the same story so many times. And I want to enjoy the time I have left. So after E60, I'm gonna hang up the advocacy, at least from a media perspective. I'll still be on the out talking to people, but I probably won't be doing any more interviews or anything like that.
Why don't you want to do any more interviews after that takes place?
Because I got weeks to live, and I'll be honest with you, they're the interviews they're time intensive, and like they'll take 400 photos and use one. The footage they'll shoot in 2 hours and use 3 minutes. So like the E60 is going to be a big production.
Hmm.
There, after that, if I only have 2 or 3 weeks to live, I don't want to say I spent it doing interviews. I want to say I spent it, living life because, at some point you max your ability to reach the nation. And once you get an E60 and you're on Sports Center, you've probably reached as many people as you're going to reach as
Well, I know a different way. I know a different way that you can even reach more people, and that is if you go deep in the main event. I mean, listen, you go deep in the main event, that's going to be out there for weeks and weeks and weeks, even after things take place with the summertime. So that would be the thing. And you're going to be playing the main event this year because Greg Merson is going to be putting you in, and you're going to be able to
I
have
I
that
can't
experience.
say I can't say enough about Greg. Me and him have we've never met, and for him to come out and do this really was amazing. And he wanted it to be a complete and total secret. But I wanted him to retweet it because he has so many followers. He's so well known that if I felt like we'd be robbing an opportunity from spreading awareness by not going forward. And Greg, luckily, agreed with me, and so obviously we released the tweets. it really has been like a dream for me. I had my first cash the other day in event
Nice.
28. I
Nice.
finished in 135th. I met Phil Hellmuth. Got to play a
Saw
hand.
that.
Phil said he would put me into a couple of events. Gave me his email. For me, I stopped following poker during that era. So Phil was like Michael Jordan for me. We used to argue over the table, who's better, Phil Ivey or Hellmuth, and a lot of the guys we talk about aren't around anymore today. So at least Phil has stayed relevant. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, he's a legend in his own right, you know? And for me, it was, again, like meeting one of my heroes. Hey, I can't see or hear you anymore.
Sorry about that. You there?
Yeah, there you go. No, yeah,
Okay.
you're back now. So
Yeah.
I don't know where I cut off.
No, it just dropped off here. We're good. Yeah, you were talking about Phil Hellmuth being you would argue at the table, Phil Hellmuth versus Phil Ivey.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And like back then, like I said, Phil was definitely one of my heroes. Like these guys on the TV were, they were heroes of mine. So for me, it was just, it was really cool. And the whole experience has been humbling. Like I said, just every step of it and every part of the way. And the love that people have shown me. People stop me in the hallway, and the words that they have for me are just, it's really amazing. How many people are hearing the story, and
Hmm.
B, all the love that they're sending in my direction from the poker community.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very inspiring thing for people to see. I mean, that's a good thing about you going around the Rio, playing so many poker, playing so many events, and getting your story out there is because I think it really does put things in perspective for people out there as well too.
See, I feel like I'm just living life. Like people have called me a hero and this and that. It's like, I have two choices. I could stay at home and I can cry about the fact that I'm dying, or I could be out here and at least try to make a difference. And it's like really, I'm choosing the latter. I don't need to sit at home and cry about it.
Yeah, I've seen people ask about. So you have a son, I believe he's a 9-year-old son, and in terms of spending time with your son versus potentially playing poker, how did you decide, or what's sort of your attitude on that situation?
I'm gonna be honest. What I do with my son is, we play some video games together, and I do Skype with him a few times a week. But
Hmm.
the toughest part of this decision was that we didn't want him to watch his dad die. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
Okay, buddy.
We didn't want him to have to watch that, and so we made a decision. And my wife, who I'm married to and separated from, she has to run the business and raise my 9-year-old. So I had to go and do this, on my own. And I have a caregiver who is my significant other, and she's not part of the story because she's worried about her future, and like being discriminated against because of her position politically that she takes by supporting me in public. So it's like I said, it was the toughest decision that was ever made, and it was made just logistically that we just didn't want him to watch it. We didn't think it would be beneficial for him. And ultimately, again, my wife had to run the business,
Hmm.
and she couldn't take care of me, take care of my son, and run the business. It just wasn't possible. And I've wanted medical aid in dying ever since the first day of the diagnosis. I said, if I go stage 4, this is my path. And I knew I never wanted to again be in a hospital bed in a house with my 9-year-old and have him watch that. I'd
Yeah.
rather him see me like this on Skype, and remember his dad healthy, and that's what I want.
What do you- I feel it, man.
So I do the best I can. Like I said, I bought a PlayStation so that we could play. I bought Fortnite, even though I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do the best I can in that. And you know, it's not perfect, but this whole situation is shit. So we're making the best of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, what else can you fucking do? You know what I mean? You got to make the best of it, however you think is right, and ultimately,
You got to play
it's
the
up,
hand you're dealt. I mean,
you know.
that's the cliche way to say it, you know.
Yeah, man.
But you know, I hope at the end he'll know that, you know, his dad, even though he, you know, I died, that I tried to help people before I passed away, and that you know, hopefully I made a difference, and he can see that, and he can know that you know, it was worth it for me to, you know, to put myself out there. So because he's already seen the story, because he's, you know, he's tech savvy at 9. Kids nowadays at 9 are they're pretty savvy.
Right.
So I had to try to explain to him, you know, I had to try to explain some difficult stuff to him.
Yeah, tough for a 9-year-old to understand any of that, really.
Yeah, no, exactly. At that age, there's only so much that that you can process.
Yeah. Rose in the chat says he'll grow up someday and see this and be very proud. What a guy. Hope you can get a few cashes and leave something behind for your little guy. Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of when you think about the potential money to be made from the series, if you do have a good summer, what's going to happen with that? Is that going to go towards the family?
Oh yeah, every dollar I make will go towards my family when I, you know, when I pass away. You know, they've already, luckily, like the business that I own, I won't spot it out here, but it's a collectibles liquidation business. It does very well, and I've left that, and 95% of every penny from like my lawsuit has gone, you know, towards them. I paid off all their debts, and you know, I've done everything I can to make sure my family's taken care of, regardless of how I finish in the series. Um, you know, I'm down on my case cash playing the series because at the end of the day, I can't take it with me, and you know, that's why I'm planning on running a package when I come back, and I'm hoping maybe, you know, people would you know, would help out and you know, stake me and help offset some of the costs, because nobody really knows when I'm gonna die. I could live for 5 months and then say, "Oh man, I gave all of my money to my family, and then I blew all of my money at the series, and like now I'm screwed, and now I'm gonna be out there with the collection plate because, like, you know,
Yeah.
I you know, but I again, I still use bankroll management. I'm not playing 10Ks. I'm not, you know, not doing anything like that. So you know, I got through this run in Vegas pretty good overall. I mean, Vegas is an expensive city. You know, bankroll took a little bit of a hit, but I leave actually today, and I come back somewhere between the 20th and the 23rd. I'll be back in Vegas to finish out the series, because I have to see my doctor in California.
Well, I'm sure, as you mentioned, Phil Hellmuth said he potentially put you in a couple events. I'm sure that if you know, if we wanted to do it, people would buy action for you to play some event, you know, more events. Like I don't think that would be a very challenging thing to do. And obviously, you mentioned the support, and even when I've shared your story on my Instagram or on Twitter, talked about it on YouTube, there have been people who said, "Well, you know, how can we help support him in the events or thing like that?" So I don't think it would be a challenge to get
Well,
something like that set up there.
Well, now that Greg, you know, Greg Merson, of course, stepped up and put me in the main. What I've done is I put together basically a package for my return, and I mean, I'm selling it at the charity rate, but not, you know, it's a regular stake, rather than something crazy, you know, where, you know, what Greg did was amazing, and I don't, you know, I don't expect anybody else to do anything like that. So I'm going to be you know, using stake to sell off what I think is a reasonable package. And I'm gonna play as much as I can, basically. And hopefully, you know, hopefully I can run deep in something, because again, you know, the story will you know, the story would endure. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm already pretty well known around here. I'm hard to miss in my, you know, zipping around in my little go-kart wheelchair. No, I'm like Speed Racer out there. I'm zigging, I'm zagging, I'm dipping, I'm dodging, you know? So, and that chair, actually, I want to mention on your program, and I know this is morbid, but when I pass away, I'm trying to find somebody who really needs a lightweight transportable power chair so that it can be donated to them after I pass, because this thing, before this, I was stuck in my house and there was no awareness campaign. There was no poker. Ever since I got this, my independence has been returned to me, and I want to give that gift to somebody else.
Mm. What's the
So
what's
if anybody out there, Kevin Rax Poker on Twitter. If you know somebody who's in need, who won't be able to get access to this kind of a chair, think a child, a teenager, or even an adult, have them contact me and reach out, and I will make sure that once I don't need it anymore, this chair goes to them.
Yeah, I mean, if potentially somebody is watching out there and that sounds like something that you might be interested in, you can contact Kevin or myself, and I'll put you in touch with Kevin. It's at Kevin Rax Poker on Twitter. You mentioned a U-Stake package. Is there a link to this package somewhere right now, Kevin?
Yeah, I just created it. I found out that it takes 24 hours for it to actually be approved, so it's up.
Okay.
But I don't think you can buy a piece yet. As far as the link, what I'll do is I'll send it to you on Twitter,
Okay.
and I'll share it and we can get it out there, and then I'll be gone for 8 or 9 days, and we'll see how much of it sells and what I can play, and I'm hoping again that people will reach out and help me raise awareness and chase my dream, because once this series ends, that's it. I don't have any more chances at a bracelet. This is it for me. So, that's what we all probably dream of our whole lives. And now that I've done my work with my family and I'm almost done with my awareness work, this is kind of all I have left on my list. And if I don't make it, at least I can say I tried.
Right. Yeah. That's all you can do, right, brother? All you can do is try at this point in time.
That's all I can do. See, it's harder than it's harder than it looks sometimes. Like, I keep a positive face on. I do my best, and my number one piece of advice to anybody: never lose your sense of humor. Don't stop laughing. I refer to myself as a human pogo stick. You have to be able to laugh at yourself, or else you're not gonna get through situations that are trying. You got to keep laughter in your life, because without it, it's pretty bleak.
Yeah, I mean, what other kind of advice would you give to somebody out there? Because
experiences over money. And I'm a guy who spent 100 hours a week working. Have experiences. Stop when you visit all these cities to play all these tournaments. Set time aside, visit the city, and do stuff other than just poker. If you have an intense schedule, take one day, leave it empty, and experience life. Just because you can't take the money with you. And I think about some of the money I've blown, and I could have traveled the world, and I planned on it, but now it's too late. And at any given time, it could become too late for any of us. So that would be my advice, honestly. That, and of course, appreciate those around you, and realize, again, perspective. While you're losing a pot, and you're wigging out somewhere in Cambodia, a 13-year-old is in a machine gun fight. So you know what I mean? Like, perspective. People are dying of cancer, of rare diseases. People have strokes and are in semi-conscious states. They're trapped in their own bodies. All of this stuff, poker, it sucks to take a bad beat, but it's not the end of the world. And if you're playing on your case money, maybe you shouldn't be there anyway.
Yeah, bankroll management, huh?
Yeah, well, life roll management.
Life roll management
Honestly,
now.
life roll management, not just bankroll management. Life roll. The thing we have that's the most limited is time, and you won't realize it until they pull your card, and then for me, like, I had a lot of plans that were 5-year plans, and now that's all gone for me. So I'm trying to shove 5 years into 6 weeks.
Yeah.
a tough task.
Well, how do you think you're doing at it so far?
I mean, I think I've done well in raising awareness. I'm 1 for 7, so I haven't done great in the series so far, but better players than me are 1 for 7. These are the toughest fields. They're the largest fields. And I mean, it's the World Series of poker. It's not you're not playing with kids in the schoolyard, so to speak. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
So
My
you know, I expect it to be tough. I don't, I go out there expecting to win, but at the same time, I'm also realistic enough to know that the cards may or may not cooperate with me. They don't give a fuck that I have cancer.
it'd be nice if they did, huh? But no, the cards definitely do not give a fuck what you're going through or what you have. The cards only care about the cards, man. And I think that's a good thing that makes poker great, is that anybody can win no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what your problems are, no matter anything you got going on in life. Anybody has a chance to win in a poker tournament. I think that
Absolutely.
makes it beautiful.
You could be the winner. I mean, look at me. I had to train myself to sit to play these tournaments. They told me I wouldn't be able to sit for more than 2 or 3 hours. I went to the casino daily and sat an hour, then 2 hours, then 2.5, then 3, until eventually I finished a 1-day tournament at Parks, and I finished third, and I played for 14 hours. And I said, you know what? I'm ready, and I had 172 staples in me at the time. So they removed those, and I was at the tables with open, what they call packed wounds. So, and I was still there every day, you know what I mean? And I'd go home and I'd get my bandages changed, and I'd go back.
So you had to, let me get this straight, Kevin. You couldn't sit at a poker table for more than an hour or two until you had to actually train and go there and treat it as like a gym exercise where you had to increase your stamina at the table.
Yes, in order to be able to sit. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
I would sit at home, but I started doing the sarcoma awareness thing, and I started, again, sitting when I got the power chair. And at first, after about a half hour to an hour, I was in agony and I had to go home.
Jesus.
And eventually, again, I built up my endurance because I knew I wanted to play in the World Series of Poker.
Right.
And the doctors said they thought it was impossible for me to be able to heal up enough to be able to sit those kind of hours. So what I wanted to do was prove them wrong.
And proved them wrong, bro. We proved them wrong for sure.
Yeah, no, I did, and I've spent my life like that. I'm an against the grain kind of guy. If you tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna try.
I bet you can't win a bracelet.
Well, I'm gonna try, Joe. I'm gonna try.
Oh damn, brother. This is listen, man. You mentioned that you don't want to spend your time doing interviews and you don't want to spend your time, you only have so much time. I was thinking about this last night. I'm appreciative you'd even want to come on the podcast because, as you said, that the time is limited, and even giving me an hour out of your time, I greatly appreciate that, because I'm not sure what I would do if it's reversed around. And obviously you're sort of trying to maximize the time and approaching things from a selfish way on some degree, because you want to, like, there's only so many days left, and the other hand, you want to help increase that awareness. So, I mean, I'm appreciative that you'd even come on here and kind of tell your story to people that watch my show, and maybe it has an impact and it helps save one life just through this show itself in general.
I mean, according to the statistics, it will, and that's why I made it a priority to make sure I did this podcast, because again, I do feel like the poker community might be at an above average risk for sarcoma, because I've had people tell me that they're ignoring a lump because they want to play in the next tournament.
Really?
Yeah, I've had people tell me this at the tables, that they have a lump in their leg, but they're here at the World Series and they'll worry about it after. And all I can do is tell them, like, you shouldn't. You should go to a doctor, get the biopsy, and come back, and then you'll get the results, next week. But, people are going to do what people are going to do. And, it's not my place to push anybody. All I can do is lead a horse to water. I can't, force them to drink. So,
that's true.
Hopefully people take it serious, because look, I'm dying. I've got, weeks left. And I was just like you. So, if you have any kind of a lump in your arms, your legs, and, you feel anything, I go to the doctor and I insist on a biopsy. And that's been my message at every table that I speak at, is that sarcoma cancer is a cancer that grows in the architecture of the muscles and connective tissue in the arms and legs. And that any lump whatsoever, whether they tell you it's benign or not, is worth having biopsied. If I would have known the word sarcoma, and if I would have known that a biopsy was possible without a surgical procedure, then I probably wouldn't be in this situation today. And so, again, they're not going to cut you open. You can get a fine needle aspiration. They just draw a little bit of cells out of the tumor or the cyst, the growth, whatever you want to call it. And then at least you'll know. And 99% of the time, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to be the 1%. I am the 1%. And I'm telling you, you don't want to be them.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that really does, that impacts somebody on a deep level. And if they have something they maybe have right now, they go get it checked out.
Hey, I just, I hope it resonates and that,
Yeah.
people don't blow it off, because I blew it off under medical advisory. And again, whatever, I'm not harboring anger. It just doesn't, it's not productive. It's like, it's bad for you. Stress and anger in general or bad for you. I'd rather spend my time, paying it forward and, trying to make a difference than, being angry at the couple of doctors who, technically, messed up my treatment. And
Yeah.
bad beat, I've had some bad beats along
Fucking
the way.
bad beat, buddy. That is a bad beat for sure. I mean, that's, yeah.
But that was why I wanted the medical aid in dying, because for the first time, I feel like I'm back in control and not the opposite. The disease isn't in control. I'm in control. Of when enough is enough. That's now my decision. And if I can live 4 or 5 months, that would be beautiful. You know what I mean? But all I can do is wake up every day and live life and again, live everything to the fullest. And I keep saying it, any day could be your last. So, make sure you're prepared. Oh, one more tip. This is important. I'm 36 and buy life insurance. Everybody out there should carry a life insurance policy if you have a family. When you're younger, they're really cheap. And, if I would have had one, I would have had a lot less stress knowing that everybody would be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a weird piece of advice. But again, for $15 a month, $25 a month for your average 30-year-old who's healthy, it's a worthwhile expense.
Yeah, it's a good idea out there for anyone that does have a family. That way they potentially prevent a situation where their family is then left with nothing. And at least in that scenario, even though might not be likely that you're going to suffer from something or pass away, but it always is a possibility too, especially as we all get older into our 30s and our 40s and past that as well too.
Yeah, but don't forget there, car accidents and this and that. Like, again,
That's a good point. Yeah.
There's other ways to go. It's not just sicknesses, so I'd rather be prepared, especially again, if you've got a family, then it's one of my principal regrets, because I was offered life insurance several times. And of course I turned it down. I was like, what do I need life insurance for? And then, in retrospect, I'm like, damn, I wish I would have had life insurance. So, what other messages I would give is that credit trumps cash. I've learned that every day of the week, for poker players too. They might not think about it, but your credit score is how you get a house and like how you're successful in life. Like, cause you could have millions of dollars, and if you have bad credit, you'll run into walls that you wouldn't if you had good credit. So, I mean, these are the gems of wisdom from my life. Again, are they worth it? I don't know. Not everything that falls off the wisdom tree is a gem, but again, if somebody's listening and they didn't think of it, I guess it could be a gem to them. So I'm just trying to put out there, things that I've really spent a lot of time thinking about, honestly.
Let's read a couple comments here from the chat. We're getting a lot of support out here for the story in general. This is actually this is not a supportive comment, I believe. Let me go find this comment. Hold on. Poppy, thank you for getting Kevin on the podcast, share his story and journey. You should play the tag team event with him and get a couple of favorite poker players to join the team with you guys. First of all, I don't think I would do that to Kevin, as I don't play no limit hold'em, and they'd be putting him at disadvantage. His goal is to win a bracelet. So no, I only play PLO. I can't. No, that won't take place. But yeah, that'd be a fun tournament. Are you? Is that in the cards potentially? Is that on the package for the tag team event?
That's not in the package that I'm offering, but because I didn't have anybody to play with. So I mean, if anybody wants, I don't even know how the tag team works, but if anybody's interested, I only play no limit hold'em. Generally, I mean, I played the Omaha tournament. I know how to play, but I'm the opposite of you. I still play hold'em, and
Hold'em player.
I know a lot of the action has moved to Omaha, so I understand the transition, as that's where the action is gone. But yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in playing. If anybody wants me, on their team, feel free again to reach out to me. I'm pretty much open to anything as long as it fits in with my schedule, and of course, if my health holds out. So
yeah, I mean, I guess there is a realistic chance you might go back to California today, and then is there a chance you might not come back as well?
I mean, there's a chance, but I'm pretty determined, and based on how I feel today and what my doctors think, again, they believe I should have until August. So that's what a doctor who specializes in cancer deaths here in California, an oncologist who I saw, that doctor's opinion is, again, he'd be surprised if I was in bad shape before August, but he'd also think it would be impossible for me to be running around in 6 months. That was his quote. My other doctors said weeks, and that's two doctors who were oncologists. And my lung surgeon, she said she thought I had a couple months at a minimum. So these are all the opinions I've received. Nobody really can give you a straight answer.
Yeah.
Consensus seems to be that I should have at least 8 weeks to stay and live a healthy life. Right now, I'm still eating 3 meals a day. I'm still, I still feel normal. I still conduct my normal life. I'm not like coughing all the time. And, my disease is in my lung. My breathing is a little heavy. But they've told me what symptoms to look out for and what puts me in the danger zone. And, again, the opinion is I should have until August, and I'm going to beat their expectations. That's my plan.
I think so as well, man. I think a lot of people out there supporting, and hopefully that positive energy that people are giving you and the support that people are giving you and the kind of emotions I feel like that the poker community is able to give to you. Hopefully that has to help, right? I imagine that has to be a positive thing overall, rather than being in a state where you might be alone and getting no support, or, I would just, you think that would have to matter a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, of course. No, it helps. All the positive vibes and everything, they help, and they make me feel good about what I'm doing. And do want to mention though, I have, my significant other / caregiver is, constantly supportive of me, so I'm never alone. While we're not identifying her by name in the piece. She's really important. I couldn't have done any of this without her support. I have one leg.
Yeah.
I could drive, but I can't bend down and get stuff off the floor. So there's a lot of stuff I can do, but there's a lot of stuff I can't. So I owe a debt to to her for helping make this happen for me too. So wish she could get credit for it, but the situation is what it is in that sense. And I'm never alone.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there are alone when they go through something like this, unfortunately.
Yeah, it definitely does happen. It's a tough situation, and a lot of people can't cope. Again, I'm lucky I have somebody, who's really strong behind me, and I have a lot of support coming from all angles. My family supports me. My caregiver, the community has been so supportive. I don't feel like I'm alone on this journey. I feel like I'm taking every one of you along with me. So,
Doug Polk, you familiar with Doug Polk?
I'm sorry. I didn't even know who Greg Merson was until he contacted me. I
Crazy.
ran poker clubs for a living. When you spend 20 hours a day, you just eventually burn out on poker and you stop following and you're like, I don't care. A bunch of my friends are like mid-tier and a top pros, and I follow them because I know them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know Doug, unfortunately. Please tell me who he is.
Well, Doug is one of my good friends, one of my best poker friends. He has one of the most popular poker YouTube channels. He's been one of the most successful poker players of all time. And he won the tag team event a couple years ago. So maybe they said tag teams on June 24th, which happens to be my birthday as well, too. Maybe we could put together a little.
There, Joe.
What's up?
I said early happy birthday there, Joe.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll be 34 years old. I'm getting a little bit old here.
That's the age I was when I was diagnosed. So if you haven't been to a PCP, make sure you do go to a doctor and get checked out.
Yeah, that's what my other friend was telling me because I was explaining the podcast, and they said, well, you should probably go get checked out too because you're that same age.
There's more stuff than sarcoma out there. We all should be being screened at least once a year by a physician. And I mean, I didn't go to doctor for 34, for 20 years. But, now I really feel strongly that, if as long as you have insurance, you should use it and make sure you go and, get a blood panel done. And, it sucks and you got to wait around and it's no fun. But there's way more stuff than sarcoma out there, and everything is better if you catch it early.
Mm-hmm. See some comments in the chat here. People are saying, Jordan Vargas, were the lumps growing before he sought treatment, or was he just curious?
In my case, I thought I sprained or tore a hammy, maybe pulled a hamstring because I had a pain and a swelling. So in my case, the lumps were growing before I went to the doctor, and that was why I went because again there was a little bit of swelling at the area of my hamstring, and I figured I hurt myself at work or something.
Yeah, I've never even considered the idea of a lump on the body. I guess, you hear people say things. If someone sees a lump on you, they say, well, you should get that checked out. But I guess until it kind of reminds me of something where I never knew what an alcoholic meant. And then I had a roommate in Canada who was an recovering alcoholic. And then at one point in time, unfortunately, started drinking again. And I got to see what an alcoholic really was because I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he ended up passing away in Canada as well due to alcohol and drugs. And at the time, he would always tell me, go through, I'm an alcoholic. I was like, yeah, man, like, I don't want you to drink at all. You know what I'm saying? But he couldn't have it was just a really weird thing because you hear so much about these sort of the stigma of an alcoholic and what exactly that means. But until you really experience that and see it in person and see how it can impact a person's life and how different they are on alcohol versus off alcohol, it was, I'll never look at it the same way again. I'll never look at alcohol and never look at drugs the same way again. And I feel like after talking with you more about this and hearing more about your story and hearing you talk more about getting lumps checked out and preventative measures as well too, I'll personally look at these things differently for the rest of my life and encourage others around me to take more care about them and look at them differently as well too. So, I appreciate you at least telling me your story just to me in general, because I think it's going to have a huge impact on myself.
Well, I mean, look, I wish you a long and healthy life. I hope you never need any of my advice. So, that's it. Any lump should definitely, be checked out. I mean, that's just, that's basic. You know what I mean? If you have something strange, people are scared of the doctor, though. They put it off for a lot of reasons. They don't want to go. They don't want to know. And hopefully, again, like you said, it'll resonate like it does with you with some other people. It's the same thing, like you said, with an alcoholic, and you see it in person. Same thing with somebody who's, addicted to gambling, who loses everything, and then now they're, they can't stop. Anything ugly is uglier when it's in front of your face. Until then, we can just kind of compartmentalize and keep those things away, when really, we need to be proactive and, really in areas in our life that we can change, or that we can, be better people. We should be looking to do that.
Yeah. So what your plan today is to go back home, then you're going to come back on the 20th, and then I've heard you've been
Sometime
playing
between the 20th and the 24th. It depends on on my when the doctor sees me, because again, I have to see a doctor, and then I'll return sometime between the 20th and the 24th. I drove down this time 8 hours from Sacramento. Won't be probably making that mistake again. I'm probably gonna fly back. So I'll be back, and that's the one thing I'll pretty much guarantee is I'll make it back, and I've got a free roll in the main event. There's a 0% chance I'm dying. I'm gonna will myself through July, no matter what. So
You
that's how
got
I
to.
feel about it. And again, I hope I can beat all their estimates and live good for longer than they think. So ultimately, I know what my fate is, but it doesn't mean I have to focus on it yet.
I agree, man. I agree. I mean, I think you're going to have the support of myself and the support of other people out there in the poker community as well, because I've I mean, I think a story like this is, it has a lot of different components to it, but ultimately I think it brings people together to show support for a cause, and hopefully that message that you want to spread gets out there, and hopefully you have a little success as well too.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
the
no,
events.
I've been getting a better hang for the live play and for the fields and for the nuances. I'm getting coaching
Good.
from Greg Merson. He's provided me with coaching and hand history evaluations and etc. I try not to bother him too much because I don't want to. I might spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day talking to Greg, which is more than enough. He's actually in Jersey, where I just came from, and he's living the family life, and he said he's playing more online and less live now. So I'm looking forward to meeting him, and at least I'm really grateful he takes the time to evaluate my hands, and like I said, I just try not to be a bother because I don't want to
I mean, I know Greg. I've had him on the podcast before. I've known him for many, many years. I don't think he's going to think that you're bothering him when it comes to hand histories, brother. I'm sure he's more than happy to help out, no matter if you got to get it. Because I think for a guy like Greg, when he's helped people out with the hands, it also helps him out too. It's not like it's a purely one-way street. I think you get a lot of value in terms of helping other people out with their hands as well too. So I don't think you're bothering him.
Yeah, he says he enjoys talking poker and enjoys, hand histories, so he always tells me I'm not a bother and feel free to contact him whenever. And I don't ever look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm not that kind of guy. So I really only send him hands that I think are really key. But, again, for those who are thinking maybe of investing, I am getting coaching from a former world champion. So I don't think I could find a better coach than that, to be honest with you, especially, not for Hold'em. And, I know Greg's good in multiple games, and luckily I only have to worry about one.
That's true. Rick James says, if I had cancer, the last place I'd want to be is at the poker table with the degens and the scumbags and the grinders. I don't know, man. I think that's the kind of place I'd want to be personally. So
I don't know. The poker community, when I sit at the table, I look around and I think, these are my people. You know what I mean? I ran a poker club for 10 years. All of my friends are poker players and degens. And the word scumbags, I think if anything, this whole campaign proves that poker players as a whole, they're looking to give back. And then, they're, generally like anywhere else, there's bad people and there's good people, you know what I mean? But I think it's been overwhelmingly good. And I think, most people are good, in my opinion, out there in the community. So, I don't think of it that way. They may be degens, but so am I. And
most of us are.
I have a club card. I get I get a free smoothie with my every 10th visit to the poker room, and they punch it. So that's my degen lifetime club card. So I get one one black chip. That's it.
Well, listen, brother, I don't want to I don't want to keep you. I usually do these pretty long, but I don't want to keep you much longer, man. I just appreciate you giving me an hour out of your time on here. Get your story out there. I'm going to post a couple couple things that you said here on the Twitter streets and on social media streets. And I think that I and many other people out there will be following along with what takes place as well too. And hopefully when you get back, send me that link that you have for U-Steak. I'll share the link out there for people, and hopefully we can get you in some more events and see you out there trying to give yourself a chance to take some events down and go deep in some events, brother.
With you on my side, I don't doubt I'll be able to, sell most, if not all, of the package, Joe.
I think so.
You know what I mean? And I appreciate it. Appreciate the help big time. Again, I'm humble. I'm happy to be playing, and there's no place I'm happier than at the poker table, which is why I'm trying to get there, because I get to spread awareness and I get to play the game I love and be around, again, the people I love. So, all right. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast. Really do appreciate it. And, follow me at Kevin Rex Poker on Twitter. And, hopefully the story has some interesting turns and developments from here that aren't, involving my health.
All right, guys, you heard the man out there. I appreciate everyone who did watch, and let us know what you thought, man. If you want to send us a message or send us a mention over on Twitter, feel free to go ahead and do that. I believe Sheffield in the chat said that he wants to put you in the tag team event, and he'll DM you as well too. So look forward to him getting in touch with you from the chat. And if you're here for the tag team event, he'd love to put you in. So, we'll see what happens. One event down, a few more events to go.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, yeah, feel free to DM me. I'm also open, if anybody is diagnosed recently and wants to talk, I'm, open to talking to them about, cancer and treatments if they're facing that, or somebody in their family is, I'm not an expert in cancer, but I've been through it, and I'm willing to help other people, if they're facing that situation as well.
Guys, I appreciate everyone tuned in. Tomorrow we'll be back in the afternoon time, 1 p.m. Eastern time with Doug Polk, I believe. Actually, it might be 2 p.m. Eastern time, but yeah, that'll be the next one. I'm going to put these up on iTunes as well too if you want to watch them back. Kevin, thank you, brother. We will we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Joe. You have a good day, all right?
All right, buddy.